I called your manager
Dude.
and was like, hey, maybe we can do something together. None of the things in my life would have happened if I didn't just take a chance. The worst that could happen is no or no response.
This podcast is literally because you cold kind of just like reached out with an idea.
Give yourself permission to do that more. The worst that could happen is literally nothing.
Hello, I'm Devon Werkheiser.
And I'm producer Raimee.
And today we're counting down the top 5 things that changed our lives. Throughout our life, we're going to have these just influential experiences or moments that like really shift things and change things. And I would hope in the process of us growing up that happens throughout our entire life, right? There's always going to be things that shift, right? Like whenever you hit that next phase, whatever, get married, have a kid. Like I hope it's just like nonstop. But we're going to count down from where we're at.
Cool. Do you want to go first?
Sure, Raimee. Number 5 for me is something I've talked about plenty, but is a little thing I like to call Burning Man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that.
Really?
Yeah, but I'm excited to hear why.
Yeah. So look, guys, I went to Burning Man many times, many years ago. I haven't been in a long time, but going to Burning Man at 20 years old was the first time I went, 2011. You've maybe heard me talk about it on other pods, but the freedom that I was able to experience out there in my own being, if you've never been, maybe you've heard whatever you've heard looking at it from the outside in, but that place, man, I was able to experience so much freedom in my own being. Like I was free, man, and it shifted my sense of self. I realized I was more than I thought. I was able to like clear out parts of my identity that weren't me. They were external things put on me, or they were conditioning. I grew up a fucking actor. I'm hyper self-aware of who I am and how I'm perceived as a part of my job and pursuit. And going to Burning Man was like, the first time especially, I was like, whoa, no one cares who I am or what I do. They just care like how I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
yeah, so you felt permission to just literally, maybe even just be different than you've ever been.
That.
Yeah.
And in that, be more myself.
Yeah.
Like, oh, here's me when I'm not worried about what people think.
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, could you imagine, listener, truly feeling like I actually, it's not even relevant in this society at Burning Man. It's not even relevant what people think of me. Like judgment, like that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening here. We're here to play, express, create, climb, interact, right? Survive. Lots of different aspects of Burning Man have changed my life. So there's the freedom aspect. There's also the self-reliance aspect. Like Burning Man's hard. It's a hard environment.
It seems intense.
It is intense. It's very intense. Getting there, it's an intense environment. It requires a lot of you. And the first year I went, it was just like 4 of us. Then the next year it was 5 of us. Then I brought 30 people. And then we combined with another camp and it was 90 people. And then that broke my brain. And the next 2 years I went back to 4 and 2. But I learned as a young man how to actually lead an environment and set up a really difficult thing, which is like built a camp for 90 people, drove a giant 26-foot moving truck filled to the brim with like survival and structure.
How long were you there? 10 days?
It's like 8 days officially. And then when you're doing a camp, maybe you're there a little early and a little after. So 8 to 14 days.
Wow.
And it's just some of my favorite experiences in the world have been at Burning Man. And experiences that I haven't been in many, many, many years, but it has shaped who I am. I'm a better person for having gone.
I think it's partly maybe because you forget about that feeling of, for me, I'm always in the back of my mind, how am I being perceived?
Yes.
And I don't know if I've been in an environment where that has completely gone away.
Exactly.
So I wouldn't even know how to move that muscle in my brain. So that's what it unlocked for you.
That's it. Because no matter what, some part of your awareness knows you're being perceived in spaces. So there's always some part of you that's occupied by that. Like you can't help it. And that's
even like right now. Yeah.
And that's exactly it. Like being there, it wasn't there. That awareness was like, oh, that's not even what's
Doesn't
happening.
matter.
Like I'm just walking through this desert covered in dust like everyone else. Oh, fuck. And when that is removed, that self-awareness, that self-perception, when that's removed, oh, whoa. Maybe like I got to experience, oh, I'm more than all of this.
Like actually living in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah,
amazing.
I'd love to do that for that specific reason.
Yeah, I think people find it at festivals.
Yeah.
They find it at Burning Man. Like there's different spaces that you can go find this learning in, you know?
Love it.
So what about you?
My number 5 is allowing myself to be more vulnerable with friends. I think for a long time, I grew up feeling like a burden and I was always the therapist friend and never the one expressing myself. And it was actually one of my friends, Sabrin, you've met her.
Yeah.
In my early 20s, we met and she like gave me like verbal permission to just spill everything to her and like actually ask for help and tell her things. And I'd never had a friend, not that it's a wrong thing that no one told me to do that, but I needed that actual permission. And so since then, I've been so much more open and vulnerable with all of my friends. And obviously that's life-changing because now we have a way closer dynamic and I can be that way more freely in other parts of life.
That's amazing. Shout out Sabrin. Yeah, sometimes we need someone in our life to kind of like break that seal.
Be like,
to give
you're
us
not a
permission
burden.
Of something.
Tell me, I want to know. Like that's what she said. She's like, I want to know. Like, what are you fucked up about? Like, what dark things have you experienced? I'm like, oh wow, no one's asked me this before.
Right.
And I've never felt like I could just say it. So
and how liberating is it to feel safe with someone?
And she's the best because
and let it out rather than hold it all in and in your own story. Like, oh, it's liberating.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's life-changing because once you experience it,
you're free to do it. Like, you know what realize.
It is. Cool. I love that.
Yeah. 4.
Okay, 4. Top 4 thing that's changed my life. I'll say a major breakup. A major breakup.
I might have to change one of mine to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Just life changing. And I'm not talking about a little breakup. We all can feel pain from those. I'm talking about a huge one that literally.
You thought they were forever.
I thought it was forever.
You realize that idea of forever actually doesn't really exist. And it carries through to every other relationship in your life because you're like, if that could fall apart and I thought that was the end all be all, anything can fall apart. Yeah. And it's kind of scary.
It is scary. No, it took years to kind of piece myself back together after that, but that changed me in the best ways. Like, first of all, that relationship, I became a better man for loving her and loving that relationship and how committed I was to it. Like, that started the process of changing my life. That love was so fucking big and deep and believed so fully and felt very adult, even though I was young at the time, like 23. Like it felt adult. This was not a kid relationship. This was like, I'm going to marry this person and have babies. I'm going to create a future with this person. And being so committed to that kind of rearranged my priorities and started the process of me becoming the man that I am. And then it ending the way it did completed the process of me kind of learning some lessons I really needed to learn to become the man that I needed to be. So that relationship, for all its good and all its bad, was exactly what I needed in my life and really was necessary and kind of a blessing, even though holy shit did that breakup hurt. Took me fucking years to piece my heart back together.
Yeah. And now you see that you can too. Like, you look back and you're like, wow, I actually made it through that.
Yeah.
So when you encounter more grief in your life, which we all inevitably will, you can kind of refer back and be like, I got through that. It's fucking hard right now. Yeah. But I'm going to get through it.
Dude, I was working my day job at the time at the scarf company. So I was in sales. I was working this shop where I needed to engage with customers and sell them things and be kind of this positive whatever, this thing. And literally like through a lot of that early time in the breakup, like I would finish work, I would lock up the store, and I would just lay on the floor and just be a puddle. Like I felt like I was fucking dying.
So it does feel like you're dying.
Oh my
You're
God.
like, this, nothing could hurt more. I can't wake up tomorrow. Like, what?
Because a part of you is dying.
Yeah.
A dream is dying. A version of yourself is dying. Your fucking partner, who's no longer your partner, like that idea is dying. Like it was brutal, but changed my life for the better. And you know, I'm grateful to that person and just that time.
Yeah. If someone has never gone through a heartbreak like that, wow, I'm kind of jealous, but also, yeah, we're now here because we've been through something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm a little jealous because like
so
whoa,
bad.
but also you're missing that painful side of learning can be really good, even though it's awful. It's fucking necessary, man.
Yeah.
Listeners, I don't know about you, but I have been getting so many spam calls recently. Like too many. It's annoying. How do all these companies have my number? And let alone, I can't even talk about the spam emails. I have to create new accounts every couple of years because it's endless. And the truth is, we live in this age of technology where for every new app we download, we have to click that agree to terms button. And part of that is they're selling our data. Everything we sign up for, we have to use an email or a phone number, and they're selling our data to these companies. So really, our data is just floating around out there for solicitors to buy, and that's why they can bother us on our phones. But thanks to today's sponsor, Aura, I've been able to take extra precautions to get my data offline. Aura helps you monitor your credit and identity, manage your passwords, protects you against viruses, and offers a VPN to protect your privacy as you browse. This is an incredible service that they offer us, and we need it because none of us have time to read the terms of service, and even if we did have the time, we would still have to click yes. So Aura is doing the work for us to protect us while we're online. And come on, be honest. You don't want spam calls. You don't want spam emails. I'm sick of it. Junk, just junk filling up my life. So I'm taking my life back with Aura, and you should too. You can get Aura at aura.com/growingup now and have your info protected too. That's aura.com/growingup. And now back to the show.
Well, on a lighter note,
Great.
my 4 is cold outreach. And this has changed my life in so many ways.
Dude.
I think I've maybe mentioned it on one of our episodes before, but almost every job I've gotten in my life, jobs I really love, like this job, have happened because I sent a cold email, I sent a cold DM, I showed up at an event where the person I wanted to work for was at, and I asked for a job. I called your manager and was like, hey, maybe we can do something together. And I mean, none of the things in my life would have happened if I didn't just take a chance. The worst that could happen is no or no response.
This podcast is literally because you cold kind of just like reached out with an idea.
So I think give yourself permission to do that more. Like,
that's awesome.
It's, you know, kind of scary, but the worst that could happen is literally nothing.
Right.
So
I tell myself that in life sometimes. Like there are these situations like with cold reaching out to someone. If the worst that happens is nothing changes and everything is exactly as you are now, that's not really a risk.
No. And I have
it's
people
not scary.
Reach out to
even though it feels
me
scary
now because I have a little bit of online success, and I've had people say, hey, can I work for you? And I'm not at the point where I could hire anyone, but I'm not like, oh, weird. Like, oh, weird. I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I could hire them. This is so cool.
Yeah, and like good on you for
amazing them that they asked, right? And like I might follow up with some of these people down the line when I actually do need to. So I'm just giving you all permission. Like, it's not weird.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's admirable.
And worse that happens, you hear nothing and nothing in your life changes. So you're exactly where you started. You didn't, you want to look at net gains in your life. Like net, you don't lose anything by reaching out and nothing changing.
Yeah.
You can only benefit. That's kind of how I felt with, this podcast in some capacity. The Neds pod was like, when we were starting the Neds pod, it was sort of like, look, best case scenario, it's successful, it grows things, we make some money, we talk to the audience, all that. Like we have fun. Worst case, it doesn't do well, and
Everyone forgets.
and I'm exactly where I am now.
Yeah.
Like nothing changes.
Yeah.
So it was like, all right, fuck it, let's
Why
go
not?
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Number 3.
All right, number 3. Okay, I'm just gonna group this, even though this covers a lot of different parts of my life and different experiences. But I'm gonna be real, listeners, and I'm gonna tell you this is not for everyone. This is what changed my life for the better. Okay, this is not for you, possibly. Okay, this came about organically through who I am and how my life unfolded. But it's psychedelics and plant medicine.
I knew that was where that was.
Psychedelics and plant medicine. I have learned so much. My life has been so enriched through me exploring and experimenting in various forms of psychedelics, plant medicine, ceremonies, all these modalities, okay? These substances, these chemicals. There's certain drugs I've never done and I will never do because they don't interest me. But there's certain ones that kind of show you things about yourself and kind of hold a mirror up to yourself that have been incredible teachers in my life. And like I said, I wanted to disclaim that is not for everybody. It really fucking isn't. There is risk involved with these things, like for real. Bad trips are not for the faint of heart. And some of these chemicals are real intense on your body, and like I don't recommend it. But just organically in my life, I experimented and I took those risks, and
it gave you new thoughts. Like it unlocked a certain area of your brain that you hadn't explored before.
Literally.
Yeah.
And for me, it was always like it changed me for the better when I came back from them. I think some people go down a wrong path when they think they need that thing to feel that good or to keep that learning. Oh, I need to keep going back to that thing. That's the thing. I got to do let me do another ceremony. Is like, no, these medicines, whatever, these psychedelics, these chemicals, they give you kind of a shortcut view. But then you have to like bring it back to your normal life, your sober life, and integrate and kind of live it now. But I felt that. I mean, with mushrooms, with certain things, like when I came back, I had learned things that I couldn't unlearn that made my life better.
Yeah.
Just made me more clear about who I was, what our nature is, like how much love is a part of this life.
Yeah, I think for me, I've done a few, dabbled, but it's been like about seeing love. I don't really know how to explain it.
I know,
but you see it, you feel it in a way that is just different.
Yeah. And there's something too. I get the people, I have friends who have never drank or never smoked weed and definitely have never taken a psychedelic, right? Like I get those friends and they might have a better memory than I do. and
I can also attest to my short-term and long-term memory is shit.
Like there must be benefits to that, but that has never been my curiosity. That's never been my being. Like I was interested. I'm like, oh, what's that about? Like, let's see what that adventure. Let's see what that adventure is like. And we talk about it on Ned's pod on one of the episodes this year. But the first time I took mushrooms, like I had a full on bad trip. I laughed for an hour. I had about a 4.5 hour fear spiral, panic attack, just terror, and then as soon as it wore off, as soon as I took my first breath where my mind kind of came back to linear thinking, I was like, that was amazing.
You're like, let's go again.
Kind of, because so I had this powerful bad trip the first time I took mushrooms. I was scared for 4.5 hours. There's a common thought. I had a thought that, I had broke my brain. Like I will be, because you're the way.
Never going to go back to normal.
I'm never going to go back to normal. I have ruined my innocence, right? Like it was fear and I believed it. And that fear just spiraled me down literally into like the fetal position on my friend's bed for like 4.5 hours. It was crazy and so intense and felt so real. But as soon as I came through that back to my like normal thinking, it was this powerful, euphoric lesson of that was all in my head.
Yeah.
That fear actually wasn't real.
Yeah.
I made that up and believed it. And because I believed it so fully, I terrorized myself. But that wasn't real. It was this beautiful lesson of like, whoa, our mind is very powerful and fear is very powerful. And us believing the fear is very powerful. And it kind of taught me like a lot in that one bad trip. And then the second time.
Have you had another bad one?
I've had plenty of bad trips.
He keeps going back for more.
Yeah, whatever. I learn in different ways. But the second time, then I was actually at Coachella back in the day.
When it was actually cool.
When it was cool. 2008.
Wow.
That was my second time. And that was like the opposite. So the bad trip taught me a lot. And then the second time I took mushrooms, I learned so much from the goodness. I saw Roger Waters played Dark Side of the Moon from start to finish. It was euphoria.
Did you see like rainbows?
I mean, it was just like profound elation, like the bliss and victory of being alive was what I felt. And anytime an insecure thought would creep into my head, this other gentle little thought would dissolve it by saying, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
It trains your brain a little.
It literally trained my brain. And I probably didn't do mushrooms again for a little while, like a long while after that. Those two experiences taught me so much and like changed my life, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's go do some acid. Just kidding.
Relax.
I'm inspired.
I'm older and I do those things a lot less.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's, we can't even, there's a lot more to that part of my life, but yeah, we're good.
Yeah. My number 3 is moving out of my hometown.
Oh, yo.
You know, it's a cliche, but I've always been someone that's loved travel, but it took me a while to actually make a big move across the country. I had traveled to like 30-something countries before I finally was like, okay, I think I need to move.
Wow.
And I followed this feeling of going to LA. But honestly, I've met the best people here. I hate when people say that LA is fake. Honestly, if you say that, you're probably fake because you attract what you are. I've met the most incredible people, Devon included. And
for real.
Like, obviously.
You're like meant to be here.
Yeah, I feel that for the first time. I always had a dark cloud over me. Even when I returned to Michigan, love my family and everyone, but there was just something off, and there's something still off about how I feel there. And moving here just changed everything. I'm so much happier and lighter, and sometimes it is your environment.
Sometimes it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes especially if you're kind of in a smaller town.
Yeah.
And your family's there and everyone you know is there. If you stay there for your entire life, like that will be your life. It will be that size.
And some people love that.
There's benefits to that.
I'm kind of envious sometimes. I'm like, oh, my sister like lives in a little cute house with her babies, and
totally,
it's awesome.
No, when I go back to Napa, when I go back to northeastern Pennsylvania, where a lot of my family is, like, a lot of them are there and they can see each other, and now they're getting married and raising kids, and they're all around, and I see the benefit of it and the simplicity and the strength and the beauty of it. But I'm glad both my parents were the types of people who just felt that call to get the fuck out.
Followed it. And the worst
and they
case,
followed it.
You can move back. Worst case scenario. Like, you know, might cost a little money, but like, wouldn't you rather try and wonder?
Yeah, what I love about LA too, and probably New York, is like this is where people go who feel that from everywhere.
So we all can relate.
Yeah, there's like something about people who feel called to come to these places. And of course, there's tons of natives to LA, and there's tons of natives to New York. But a lot of the transplants are people who had that call in them to leave where the fuck they came from, which takes a level of insanity. It takes a level of bravery. It takes a level of trusting the unknown. And then we're all here in the space doing that. I think, I find there's incredible people in LA.
Yeah. Some of the best I've met in my life.
Yeah. Like, incredible community here, because we all have that thing that drove us west. Let's go to LA. Let's go to the land of fucking dreams. Like,
and sun.
And
like, honestly,
sun.
it totally
makes
sun
a difference.
Actually makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it does.
So,
oh, yeah, you were in fucking Michigan.
It was gray all the time.
You were in cold, gray,
yeah,
rainy.
Yeah, and you don't notice that it's actually taking a toll, I don't think. I didn't know that was part of the reason. But
yeah.
It was.
It's true. We get out here and it's sunny 350 days a year.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
ridiculous.
That's what we pay for.
Exactly.
Price worth paying. That I'll keep paying.
I'll keep paying it, gladly.
As long as I can.
Yeah, exactly. Listeners, if you're a fan of me or pay attention to my life, then you know I have a million things going on at one time. It's really been a busy season of my life, and I do not see it stopping anytime soon. That's 2 podcasts, multiple social media accounts, my music career, my acting career, just managing my adult life, right? There's a lot going on, and that's why I'm so grateful to today's sponsor, Notion. You gotta know how much I love them. Notion combines your notes, docs, and projects into one space that's simple and beautifully designed. And the fully integrated Notion AI helps you work faster, write better, and think bigger, doing tasks that normally take you hours in just seconds. Get organized. If you're like me, maybe you're scattered, but the people at Notion have figured out a way to help us. Notion is a one-stop shop to organize your teams, tools, and knowledge so that you can do your most meaningful work. Try Notion for free when you go to notion.com/growingup. That's all lowercase letters. Notion.com/growingup to try the powerful and easy to use Notion AI today. You can empower yourself and support the show. That's notion.com/growingup. Now back to the show.
Okay, number 2.
All right, number 2 thing that changed my life. It's probably really the number 1, but I'm saving a different one for that. Is my parents' divorce. Yeah. Yeah, this is another.
You were older,
Yeah, I was
right?
25.
Wow. I was 4, so I don't remember.
Yeah, going through that as an adult with full awareness and all of that, and just the way it happened and the context of who my family was before and how quickly it was gone and over. I mean, it was literally world shattering, like literally changed the foundation of my being. One of
your reality.
Yeah, my reality. Like whether I realized it or not, that my family being together was maybe the main structure of stability and foundation in my fucking being, like in who I am. I didn't realize it because I felt very independent.
Yeah.
I felt, I'd moved out at 21 and I felt like really capable and independent, even though I loved my family. When they were gone, when there was no more one place to go see my family, when there wasn't that family unit, like literally the bedrock that I was built on was fucking gone. And that has taken years to integrate and get through, and there's still fucking pain involved with it. However, it has changed my life. Unfortunately for the better, like it is for the better, even though it's with so much pain. I don't think that wound will ever not hurt, but that wound has made my life have more fucking meaning, and it's made me feel more connected to more people. When it happened, I was like going through this depression, but I could also feel this simultaneous, like I can relate. Like, oh, I understand more of my friends. Yeah. I understand more of the world. I actually feel more, I can connect with more people now. Like I could feel that, and that was a positive thing. And then it just forced me to really grow up.
You mean because a lot of people in your life had divorced parents?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and when your family is together, I mean, God bless if your family still is.
No.
It's unique. More people I know come from divorce, whether it happened young and you're kind of used to it, but still it shifted my fucking reality, man. But forced me to grow up too. Like really forced me to grow up in ways that were so fucking painful, but make me a better me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah. Sense. Yeah.
Okay, we have 8 minutes.
Yeah. What's your number 2?
My number 2 is there's a lot of films that have changed my life.
Hell yeah.
And it was really hard for me to like narrow down one. But one that changed my life most recently, I would say, is Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Dude, what a film.
Especially like the mother-daughter storyline in that. Like my mom and I have had an interesting relationship. Love her, love you, Mom. But I feel like seeing that movie and what they went through to get back to each other really changed my life and made me understand my mom in new ways.
Yeah.
And also just how one little tiny thing can shoot your life off into all these different directions.
Yeah.
And that felt empowering. That
Yeah.
felt scary to look back at. What if I didn't do that thing? Where would I be? And it just really, makes you think about the path of your life.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of movies. That's the one that came to
no,
mind.
that's an incredible one. If you have not seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, go watch it. I think it's on streaming now.
Yeah.
I loved it. I watched it multiple times, and I think it is a profound reflection of different dynamics of life, but like from the most expansive meta. I mean, it's a conversation about fucking nihilism and why should we care about anything when we have infinite options, down to the smallest, most personal relationship between daughter and mother. Like, I absolutely loved that film. I saw an interview with the directors, the Daniels, right?
Yeah.
And I loved it. He said, like, we live in a fucking age of content in media. And they were saying, like, what the world needs is not more media. It actually needs more nothingness. It needs more space to do nothing. But they were like, but if we're gonna make a film, it better be the most mind-blowing, like, kick-ass thing and idea you've ever seen. And I love that they said that, because when I saw it the first time, I was absolutely blown away.
I laughed, I cried.
Yeah.
I thought, like, whoa, that is something I've thought but could never express.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible.
Incredible.
That's why it won Best Picture.
Exactly.
So,
incredible.
Yeah.
Cool. So the number one thing that has changed my life is a little thing called Ned's Declassified.
Oh,
Scooshy baby.
Me too.
This journey with fate and my calling as an actor that luckily my parents supported as a kid, that led me to Ned's Declassified, that, like, it is so integrated into my life in terms of how influential it was then, what a positive experience it was then, the journey getting out of it and growing up without it, but having it be there in the past, to this new
Full
cycle
circle.
I'm fucking in with Daniel and Lindsay, creating our fucking 30-year-old adult lives together with Ned's. Like, this thing is so kind of intrinsic to my life now. I'm constantly astounded at this mythical thing called Ned's Declassified and Scott Fellows.
So wild.
That has changed and continues to change my life.
I think it's changed a lot of people's lives. It made me feel okay to be silly when I was a kid. Like, more so than other shows, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm just sick. I'm not tearing up, but
I love that, because fuck yeah. Like, fuck yeah.
So it's cool that in the thing that changed your life, you also literally changed probably millions of people's lives, and still are. So
yeah. So that is I try and live my life and my art in a way that's whole. Like, we were talking to fucking Scumbag Dad about the awful kind of narcissist way of influencing and creating, where it's just about you and your success. I have always, luckily, Ned's, I ended up being a part of it kind of accidentally by fate. But Ned's was one of those things where it was a win-win-win all around. It was a good quality show, which creates success for the brand, creates success for the studio, right? On that level, it's a win. For us personally, it was a really positive experience.
Awesome.
We're living our dreams. For the audience, it's actually helping them feel less alone and allows them to connect to their humanity more. Like, it is a win across the board. And that's harder to achieve in life, but that's what I always want. That's what I want with this podcast, is something that is good for all parties involved. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love it. We're lucky that we get to do that and don't have to rely on stupid clickbaity things. You know, sometimes, that stuff gets more, attention, but it's fine.
Yeah.
My first one is solo travel. Obviously, you can just listen to our episode together, but it's the one thing that's made me feel more capable, more confident.
Hell yeah.
Brought me almost to that feeling you felt at Burning Man of
I can
be whatever. I'm not being perceived by anyone that knows me. So
yeah, if you have not listened to Raimee and I's episode from first season, it's a full conversation with us about, like, we've both done a lot of solo travel and traveling around the world, and we talk about those experiences.
And how to do it for less money too.
That's right. That's right. Raimee's got the tips. No, that's definitely somewhere in my list. I didn't put it, but solo travel.
I knew we would have the same.
Solo travel has for sure changed my life for the better and made me learn more things about myself and just kind of like grown who I am as a person.
Yep.
Fuck yeah, Raimee. So listeners, that's the top 5 things that have changed Raimee and I's life. Let us know in the comments the most influential things that have changed your life. If you haven't already, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Help us grow this thing organically. We love you. Hope you're doing well out there. Definitely, if you feel stuck and like you haven't had your life changed for the positive in a while, just open up to that possibility. Like, open up to new experiences, or maybe something that's in your sphere already that you could give a little more time to.
Send a cold DM or email.
That's right. Cold call someone for something that you want in your life, and we'll see what happens.
Okay.
Okay, bye.